from a beautiful state. You want to lead from a beautiful state, not a suffering state. What am I talking about? I want to talk about the energy of leadership. I'm not sure if you've ever thought about this before, but there is an energy that goes with leadership. And I'm not talking about stamina and working tons of hours. I'm talking about the energy that you show up with every day, because energy is a real thing. And you've seen this before. Let's say you are not the boss and you work someplace, but the boss comes in totally ticked, angry, frustrated. Well, can you feel that? Like if you're in a boardroom with that, does that sort of fill that space? Yeah, exactly. It's just that energy, those negative emotions. Or maybe it's not the boss, it's just a colleague, and at the meeting, they're just in this bad mood and everyone around can feel it. In the same way, when someone shows up and they're just in this positive frame, they're optimistic, they're excited, they're joyful, they're grateful, then that has an impact on everyone around them. And this is the energy of leadership. And I want to get into that in just a moment. If you did not know, we launched a new podcast last week. It's called Born to Climb. We've had some great guests on it already, and it really is a show about this innate desire that all of us have to want to do something significant, at least for us, right? But at the same time, when we step out of that comfort zone, which is a task in itself, we always face some kind of obstacles. And when we do, what do we do next? And the show's really all about that, interviewing some amazing people that have overcome some incredible challenges. And so people who've stepped out of their comfort zones, it's meant to be an inspiration for you. And so go ahead and check that out at jamesrobbins.com/podcast. All right, let's go back to the energy of leadership. So there are only two states. Let's make this really simple. There are only two states. There is the beautiful state and the suffering state. There is no third state. So let's talk a little bit let's start with the suffering state. The suffering state is a place where, honestly, the majority of people spend a good chunk of their life. It's a place of stress. It's a place of worry, of fear, anger, frustration, despair, hopelessness, discouragement, any of those negative emotions that, hey, visit all of us from time to time. Like we all dip down into the suffering state from time to time. It's just part of the human condition. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you spend a lot of time there, it absolutely changes how you're going to show up. It changes how you're going to lead, changes how you might give a sales presentation, changes how you might be on stage. It changes how creative you will be when you go to solve a problem. And so much of what we do as leaders is we solve problems. And so it was Einstein who said, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Right? And so sometimes we go to solve a problem, but we're just frustrated, we're angry. In those moments, it's best just to go, you know what, let me just take a break, because I am not going to come up with a good solution from here, or from that mindset, right? So that mindset, though, creates an energy, the emotions. That's what emotions are, right? They're energy in motion, and they radiate out from us. A beautiful state, on the other hand, is a place of connection. It's a place of joy. It's a place of happiness, of gratitude, of appreciation, a place of wonder, a place of awe, a place of curiosity. And when someone's in a beautiful state, they're going to perform at a higher level. And so, especially for the leader, when the leader is in a beautiful state, then you're able to have a much better impact on your staff. I mean, think about for you, what would you rather have in your life? You want to have a leader in your life that's always stuck in a suffering state? Probably not, right? You want somebody who's optimistic, who is positive. That doesn't mean that we're not looking at the data or looking at the problems. We can look at the problems. We can look at a deadline that has some stress to it, right? Stress in and of itself isn't what's bad. It's our mindset about the stress, right? So two teams can have the same deadline, and it's a high pressure deadline, meaning like there's a lot riding on this. Like if we don't get this done, we're going to lose this client. Well, one team can be stuck in that stressful place where everybody is so worried, so afraid, and it's compromising their ability to work. And another team can be working on the same high pressure deadline, but they're optimistic about it. They're grateful about it. They're having great relationships with their team. They're not snapping at each other. That's the difference between a beautiful state and a suffering state. And who really sets the bar? Who sets the bar for the team? It's going to be the leader. And so if the leader's not in a beautiful state and always in a suffering state, it's going to impact your team. So let's come back down to reality, though, because all of us from time to time get stuck in a suffering state. I did yesterday, so it's not like that's too long ago. And it was because I was dealing with certain situations, some frustrations with work, and started ruminating about that. And pretty soon I'm angry about things. And at least I recognize, okay, I'm in a suffering state right now. And so that's the first step, right? Being able to recognize the state that you're in, but then how do you shift out of that? And there's a couple of quick things you can do when you find yourself in a suffering state, because it's really all about changing your focus. It's changing your focus on how you're looking at something, and not only your focus, but also using your body. So one of the things that we can do when we're caught in a suffering state, right, is to move our body. Because often when we're in a suffering state, we get restrictive. We start to collapse down in on ourselves, and it's to get up and get moving. And whether that's go walk around the block and, move your arms, swing your arms around, but just get out of that space and get your body big again. That's one of the things you can do on a physiological level to start moving out of a suffering state. Another thing you do simply is just begin to smile, is beginning to hold a smile. There's lots of research out there that shows that if you just smile, it forces the muscles in your face to move in a way that then inspires some of the good neurochemicals to be released that's going to make you feel better, right? So these are some ways that you can start. But another way is then obviously to change how you're thinking. And what I find is that when I'm in a suffering state, it's usually because I am either, there's some kind of fear that's underneath the surface, right? So a lot of times when people are really stressed, it's really just a fear underneath. Like, what are you afraid of? So sometimes it's a fear of something, but the other time it's a doubt of myself, doubt of my own ability. And think of it in this way. There's a third one, and the third is that there's just something in our way, right? There's some kind of obstacle or some kind of mountain to climb that you've got to figure out what you're going to do with that. So when there's some kind of external obstacle in our way, then it's going to require creativity and innovation. And so you need to be in a beautiful state for that. If it's some sort of fear that is facing you, then it's going to be some courage. If it's some doubt that you have internally, then it's going to be some belief in yourself, right? Which you can look back in the past, you can look at things you've overcome in the past. There's so many things that you can tap into that are going to help you get out of that, as U2 says, stuck in a moment that you can't get out of it, to get yourself out of a suffering state and back to a beautiful state. Because I don't know about you, but life's too short to live it in a suffering state. And work is work, even if you run your own company. And it's a very purposeful company, which I'm sure it is. It's not worth living your life in a suffering state over it. And so what do you need to unplug from? What do you need to step back from so that you can step back into things like gratitude, right? So gratitude is another way that we get back into the beautiful state. Grateful for what we have, grateful for your business, grateful for your employees, grateful for your staff. You might say, but they messed up and cost me all this money. Okay, sure, mistakes happen, setbacks happen, that's life. But what can you be grateful for in this moment? And because if you didn't have employees, I bet it would be even more difficult. So be thankful that you got employees that, want to get better, and they want to help you, and they want to help your business. So stepping back into gratitude. So those are just some things that you can do when you find yourself stuck in a suffering state. Because what we want to do is we want to lead from a beautiful state. And when we do, that's where you will be inspiring as a leader. That's where you'll be the most visionary as a leader. and that's what people want to follow. All right. Closing out, remember, Born to Climb. If you haven't gone there, go check out some of the new episodes, jamesrobbins.com/podcast. Until then, lead from a beautiful state.